Hello, everyone, and welcome back to an episode of the Chiefs Podcast Network. I'm Jaden Varner. It's going to be just me today. Just trying to get on an episode before class, so didn't have time to get anybody here with me. Obviously, Kansas City plays tonight. Big game, Thursday night, prime time against the Chargers at Arrowhead. And we're going to do a little bit of a game preview. The Chargers going into week one, facing off against the Raiders, came out with a win 24-19, which saw Derek Carr throw three picks to that Charger defense, and Justin Herbert throwing about 280 yards and three touchdowns, and then having about a yard on the ground. But then his leading receiver, Keenan Allen, in that game came out, got hurt, hamstring injury. He's going to be out for this game. So they're going to be looking to maybe some of their other targets, DeAndre Carter, Gerald Everett, maybe relying more on Austin Eckler in the receiving game. But obviously, Mike Williams, but he was quiet against the Raiders, only had 10 yards. So, look for him to be poised for a big game. And Kansas City's going to have to do a lot of things to keep him quiet again. Probably not 10 yards is not going to be, probably possible, but it's still going to be something to look forward to. And Herbert, wasn't sacked at all against the Raiders this last Sunday, and Kansas City is going to have to find a way to get Herbert to the ground. They cannot afford to leave him in a clean pocket, or at least somehow get pressure to him and hopefully take him down, because you saw what he did to the Raiders, and can't be doing that against us tonight. And then obviously going to have to learn to wrap up and tackle for defensive wise. Saw that a lot against the Cardinals. They had probably some losses or some short gains that they just uh, couldn't. They just let them go. So they're gonna have to learn to lap up and tackle a little bit better tonight. Obviously, this is a huge game, a divisional matchup. This for first place. If you can get this win against the Chargers tonight, it's going to set you up pretty well in the division already. And it's just going to be something that Kansas City needs if they're going to want to win another AFC West championship. But obviously, you got to look at the defense for the Chargers. Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa on either side. And Khalil Mack had three sacks by himself in his debut with the Chargers. And he's finally in a scheme that fits his, pass rushing ability. So, you're going to have to look. That's going to be a key matchup for either Orlando Brown Jr. or Andrew Wiley over there. And obviously, you have Trey Smith, who is hurt. So that's going to be he seems like he's trending toward playing tonight, so that's something to look forward to for Chiefs fans. And so hopefully he does play. Hopefully can make that not as a bad deal. Um, the defense recorded three turnovers against, or at least three interceptions against the Raiders. They made Derek Carr uncomfortable. They got to him as many times as they could. I believe they got him six times, seven times in total for sacks. So you got to keep a clean pocket for Mahomes. And we saw last game he really tried to stay in that pocket against the Cardinals and really kind of get to his open receivers. So if you can keep at least a clean enough pocket for Patrick, that'll do wonders, because then he'll find, maybe MVS, he'll find Juju, he'll find, Travis Kelce somewhere, who had 21 yards against the Cardinals Sunday. So look for him to have another big game. Obviously, he'll probably be guarded heavily by Derwin James, who had six total tackles and six solo tackles, one tackle for a loss, and also a covered sack. And then Khalil Mack obviously had the three huge sacks in this game. And then you had Joey Bosa, who had about a sack and a half. So their defensive line has gotten significantly better. They brought in guys throughout free agency, so that'll be something to look forward to against this offensive line. Obviously, we have undoubtedly a better offensive line than what the Raiders have. They cut their first round Alex Leatherwood, but we'll get to them when we play them later in the year. Again, the Chargers, Justin Herbert, he is, I believe, 2-0 in Arrowhead. Obviously, one of those games was a week 17 game when Mahomes wasn't playing. They were already in the playoffs, so he's 1-0 against Mahomes at Arrowhead. So let's make sure he gets a loss here tonight. Just got to keep that offense quiet, making sure you can wrap up and tackle. That's going to be a huge thing for tonight. I mean, if you can get them, maybe short gains with like a yard, tackle them at about a yard, maybe in the backfield, you're going to be looking pretty good. I mean, Austin Eckler is receiving threat. He can run it on the ground pretty effectively. So look for him to have, substantially more attention with Keenan Allen being out. So look for that to be a key player to watch. And then as we're going to look toward Kansas City, obviously getting a huge win, 44-21 against the Cardinals. And that was in Arizona, where it saw Patrick Mahomes throw 360 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 144.2 passer rating. And then Isaiah Pacheco with 62 yards on the ground and a touchdown. And his longest was a 22-yard run. And he looked pretty good in the time that he got. Obviously, he saw a little bit more playing time after we had gotten up significantly. But, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 2 receiving touchdowns. He looked fantastic. He had 42 yards on the ground. That first drive was, pretty masterful for him. Being a big part of the receiving game, which is kind of what he was drafted to do. But, the last 2 years was really, it just seemed like they couldn't really get him to him. And, this year it seems like they're going to try to fairly focus on getting him into that passing game a little bit more. He looked fantastic. Again, 2 touchdowns. And then for receiving wise, Travis Kelce, one of the greatest tight ends all time, probably the best in the league today. And you can argue it's George Kittle, but he's been available, he's been healthy, and it's hard to not say he's not the best when he's the one out there consistently producing every day. But he had 121 yards and a touchdown. And then Juju Smith-Schuster behind him had 6 catches for 79 yards, although developed a bit of a fumbling problem. He had 2 fumbles, but lost the big one that was on about a 20-yard catch, and he just got it punched out. So he's got to learn, you got to hold on to the ball, especially against this Chargers team that you really can't afford to have any turnovers. And we turned the ball over, I believe, 4 times last year around this time to them, and we lost. So you cannot afford to turn the ball over against this team. So, Juju's got to have the last game mindset. Got to put it behind him. He's going to have to come out this game and do, perform even better. And then Marquez Valdes-Scantling was 4 for 4 for 44 yards. So, it's a nice average for him to have. And maybe we'll see him get productive more in this game. Maybe he'll have some more yards. We're able to use him more deep because they seem like they used him a lot in some slant routes, some short kind of posts, but they got him the ball when they could. And then Edwards-Helaire obviously had 32 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns, so he looked fantastic. And then Sky Moore had that one awesome catch for 30 yards, and I was pretty excited about that. Maybe we'll see as the season goes on, maybe more and more of those kind of slant patterns. Maybe they'll try to test him deep sometime. I don't know. He's got some pretty good separation ability, and we saw that quite a bit in the preseason. And then obviously week 1 had that big 30-yard catch, and a lot of that came after contact too. So he doesn't go down too easily. I mean, Randy Reed did say he was built like a running back, so maybe they use him in the backfield sometime too. Then McKinnon had 27 yards in the air. And then Hardman, who did only have 16 yards receiving, but had a touchdown. They did try to get him the deep ball. I believe there was twice that he probably could have had about a 40-yard touchdown pass, but either you could say it was overthrown or he just underran it. But can't be having those miscues. He had 6 targets and only 3 catches. So look for Hardman to try to get out of that. Hopefully look for better totals as he goes throughout the season. It's his show. No Tyreek Hill in front of him to be that deep threat. So it's all up to him now. And this is no excuse for this season. Then you have, the tight ends, Jody Fortson, Noah Gray. Jody Fortson had a touchdown on his only catch of an target of the game. But, these tight ends, they get talked about a lot. Last year, they talked about, oh, man, you had these 4 tight ends. Obviously, Blake Bell is hurt, and he's on the IR for right now. But you still have Gray, Fortson, Kelce. I mean, these are 3 very talented tight ends to be worried about. And obviously, with the offense that Kansas City seems to be more of this effective, efficient, short passes, using the run game consistently, that's going to be a huge part. I mean, this is going to be somewhat of a significantly different offense than what the Chargers have recently dealt with. So we'll see how they guard it. And I think it's going to work out well for Kansas City. I mean, Mahomes has been able to find those short passes. The dink and dunk has worked out really well, and taking the deep chances when he can. Defensively wise, George Karlaftis had 5 pressures. Chris Jones had 6, along with Mike Dana. So they're at the top of pressures in the league, but only 3 sacks to show for it. One of those came from Carlos Dunlap, the other from Sneed, and the other one from to Sean Wharton. Obviously, Kansas City, I mentioned earlier, is going to be without Trent McDuffie. He got put on the IR, so he's out a minimum of 4 games. His return looking like he's going to come back against the Bills, which is another huge game. So that'll be great to keep him healthy for that. Looking at the rest, George Karlaftis so close so many times to getting his first sack against the Cardinals, but Kyler Murray just hard to bring down. But this kid's got a high motor, and watching him play throughout that game, yeah, he might be the real deal, guys. And if he can get to Herbert, and get him down, that's going to be huge because Herbert wasn't sacked at all against the Raiders. So if Karlaftis can get there and get some stuff going, that'll be pretty exciting stuff to watch. Obviously, in terms of the Chargers defense, again, you still have to worry about Bosa. You have to worry about Mack. But I think in total, I think Kansas City comes out on top 33-30. I think, newly acquired Matt Amendola kicks the game-winning field goal with Butker possibly being out this game. I think he was officially ruled out yesterday evening. So, got to hope that Matt Amendola can do it. Not having Harrison Butker's going to suck, but if worse comes to worse, they got Justin Reed, Mr. Do It All. So I think it's going to be an exciting game. It usually is when these two teams come together, and especially it's going to be a primetime game. And the last one was a thrill. It saw Kansas City winning in overtime. But hopefully Kansas City gets the win in this one. It's probably going to be just as stressful as the last few, but we'll have a try to get a post game right after the game. It may be up that night or it could be up Friday morning, but we're going to try to get that to you guys as soon as possible. It looks like it's going to be out of time for me today. Got to hurry up and get to class, but this has been the Chiefs Podcast Network, and if you like it, consider subscribing, leave a like on the video, and we will see you tonight after the game. Thanks for watching.